I'm going to try something new today. I'm going to try something new with my anger today. Usually when I get mad, I will storm off, leave the house. I'll text my best friend. I'll rage in the car, like I'll scream and cry. Or I'll sit down and write. But as I am learning how to work with my anger and resolve the relationship that I have around how I process my anger, I think I want to try something new. Because I want to break out of my usual cycle and routine of how I address my anger. And see if I can do something else with it. So I decided I want to sit down and just let my anger... I decided I want to sit down and just let my anger freestyle. Letting my anger freestyle out like this. Like, no agenda, no script, nothing. Like, I'm literally just gonna let it... Obviously, not sharing personal details, but letting what needs to be said, because I am so used to suppressing my anger. Suppressing my anger and putting it down. And today is a great example. Something happened inside my house that pissed me off, so I told my mother about it, and she helped me intervene a little bit. My boundaries were crossed by someone else, so I asked my mom to step in. She helped me be a little bit of a buffer, and then I was talking to her. I was texting her, and I was sending her a voice note about why I was feeling angry, and my mother called me, and she said, "Why are you so mad? Like, I'm so confused. Like, I don't think it's a big deal." And I just went off. I was like, why am I mad? Because I have been suppressing my anger my whole life, and I have had to learn how to understand the power dynamics that exist depending on who I'm speaking to, because I grew up in a culture where you're supposed to respect your elders. You're not supposed to talk back to the people who raised you. You're supposed to be a good girl. You're supposed to be polite. You're not supposed to be loud. You're not supposed to be causing drama. You're supposed to be keeping the peace and harmony. So even if someone is older than you, they have more authority than you, and you don't agree with necessarily what they say, you shouldn't be talking back to them. You shouldn't be disrespectful. So there are many instances where I have to interact with someone who is older than me in age, and by our circumstances, we're just very different. You know, I have more experience in living in America versus them, and I have more knowledge because I went to school and I have an education, and they do not. And there's just a level of difference in emotional intelligence and actual intelligence and lived experiences and culture, background, upbringing, and the generation we grew up in. But if you're someone who is self-aware and you have knowledge of all of these things, then you're here. And then if you're someone who does not have awareness of all these things, you're like there. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but you're like operating on different standpoints. And so when you're interacting, it's hard to see eye to eye. But I understand where they're coming from, but they're doing something unaware. They're not intentionally trying to hurt me or piss me off, but them just being them interacting with me does trigger something within me, because I'm like, why do you lack common sense? Why are you being so irrational? Why are you being so selfish? Why are you so self-centered? And why don't you have awareness? And it takes so much on my end to keep myself calm and still pull in the awareness and understanding that they mean no harm. They just don't know better. And then I'm like, well, then what the fuck am I supposed to do with this rage? Because I have to tone myself down to not blow up in them, because I know that there's also a power dynamic here where I need to still choose, do I want to honor the culture that I grew up in, where I'm not supposed to talk back and I'm not supposed to like be mean. So I have to be calm, manage my anger, be direct while stating my boundaries and not blowing up on someone's face who I know I will, because I know if I do that, they will regret it later. If I blow up on them, I will regret it later, and that's gonna make me feel shittier. So it takes a lot of self-control to manage my anger in the moment and to not let it show. And then until I remove myself from the situation. And then I'm still mad because the anger had nowhere to go. I had to suppress it in the moment because I still didn't want to make the other person uncomfortable. But guess what? Who's uncomfortable in the end? Me. And I'm just tired because I feel like not nobody. I feel like most people are just not mad enough. Like, I don't understand how we are here in this day and age and everybody's just normalizing all of this. By this, I mean America. I mean white America. We just keep buying into the distractions. We keep buying into everything that they're feeding us that keeps us trapped in this fucking cycle that they want us to be stuck in. When we are living in a system that was never designed for us to begin with. We're living in a system. We have been trying to survive in a system that was never built for us to begin with. They never built it they never even built it to make space for us. But the more we caught on, the more they had to do damage control or PR control. They're like DEI, affirmative action, diversity, inclusion, whatever, like they're like they really try, and yet they still miss the mark. And then you have things like, it's just like, at this point, it's like the microaggressions, it starts adding up and you just can't help but notice it. And then there's blatant racism everywhere. It's just, I don't understand how we're like not mad enough, and now we're in this place where in like late stage capitalism, and we're just gonna normalize like paying $10 for coffee. We're gonna normalize paying hundreds in monthly premiums for health insurance, only to not even be fully covered because you still have to meet your deductible. We're gonna normalize like kids being pulled off the streets. We're gonna normalize like all these like messed up scenarios that literally are the consequences of staying silent and staying put. We keep saying it is what it is. This is just how America is. We keep saying, what can we do? What can we do? This is just, I don't know what to do. And it's like, that's valid. I don't know what to do either, but sitting silent is also sitting still and being silent is also a standpoint, especially if you have awareness, especially if you have feelings, especially if you feel angry. I think there's two separate things. It's two things. Like, it's one thing if you like genuinely are like dumb and you're unaware and it just doesn't affect you. Just like, there's some people who are just like airheads. Like, they're literally like floating in the air like a plastic bag, like Katy Perry said. Like, they're just drifting by. Like, they don't have a lot of critical thinking skills. They lack comprehension, and that's just, I don't know, maybe evolution only takes them this far. This is my theory. I don't know. I just think that like on a human level, like not everyone can be smart, and that's why like it's important to push for education, because the opportunity exists. Even if you're not like naturally gifted and intellectually at birth, like you can still practice and you can learn and you can become more intelligent. You can learn how to think for yourself. Like, learning how to think is a skill. Learning how to have critical thinking and analyze and have theories on your own is a skill. But like I was saying, I think it's one thing to be genuinely like ignorant, like you're just fucking dumb, you don't know any better, like I don't know, whatever like surrounding happened, or like I said, evolution can only take you this far this lifetime, whatever, right? But then it's another to like know, be aware, and then not do anything about it. It's like you're aware, but then you just sit here and complain, or you just buy into the antics. You're just like, yeah, it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. Like, I know this shit is fucked up. I know that the way things are not right, but it's not my problem. Like, I don't really have time to care to like do anything about it. And I think that is such a toxic mindset, not just for on the individual level, but on a societal level. And I hear that a lot, and I get it. I think I was at one point like that too. I used to be like, you know what, I'm just not a political person. I'm not like, I don't have a lot of say in it, and then I grow up in the system and I become more aware, and I reflect back on why I had to go through so much, and I'm like, actually, it's not really. I don't know if I have a choice to sit here and be like, I'm not political, or like I don't care about these things. You know, as a human being, how can I not care about these things? This is the system and society we live in. If I didn't grow up here, I wouldn't have so much opinion about it, but I was born in the system. I was raised by the system. I've literally fought with the system, trying my best to like make a spot for myself, and yet I'm still served with microaggressions and like things back to back to back, and being oppressed and all this. It's like, at what point is what it is gonna stop? How much longer are we gonna tolerate? It is what it is. You keep saying that, next thing you know, like 50 years later, we're stuck in like some crazy ass, I don't know, dystopian world. Obviously, I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't want to fearmonger. But I'm mad. I'm mad that more people are not talking about it. And I go on social media, and there's a lot of people that do the work, that are engaging in conversation, are enlightening others. And then there's just a lot of like majority, a lot of muggles, a lot of, I don't even know, yeah, muggles, a lot of just people who just keep engaging in the same cycle. Like, they'll drown themselves out with their vices, they're doing drugs, substance, whatever, okay? Like, they're spending money, they're buying, they're consuming like no other. And I'm like, this is literally exactly what they want. They want us to keep scrolling. Every scroll is another dollar that they get for buying our attention. Every time we click on an ad, it feeds the algorithm. We're selling our data. We're literally perpetuating the system by participating in it. And I feel so frustrated, because I understand. It's like when you're stuck in a toxic relationship, you don't really see the full picture. It's hard for you to be like, but like, it's hard for you to take a step back and realize how toxic it is for you and how misaligned you are with that person or that relationship. It's not until you step back or you're out of it that you're like, okay, wait, that was really not okay. So when you grow up in a system and that is your whole world, you don't know any better. Excuse me. You're not likely to question it, and I think that makes sense. I don't think I question it either. I don't think anybody around me really questioned it until like as we got older, our frontal lobe came in and we like went out in the world and had more experiences. But I don't think that it is smart for us to be sitting here and waiting for like a doomsday or waiting for something bad to happen to us firsthand before we can actually feel like it's time to change. The choice to change is always there. It has always been there. It always existed. I get so frustrated because I see how powerful we are as a nation. As, you know, Americans, we are so powerful. There are so many good things about this country. Okay, I will critique America for a long, long time, but at the end of the day, I am very proud to be one, okay? That is just who I am. But, for example, football. Seahawks won yesterday, and it's like, it happens every year. It's the most televised, Super Bowl is the most televised event on TV. I have chills because it is insane how this many people can gather around and watch men throw a ball on the field. This is not a diss to football or the players or the teams itself. No, this is literally me critiquing the capitalism of football. I think the sport itself has a lot of merit. I think the players, the teams, everybody puts in a lot of effort. There's a lot of merit in a sport, and I have a lot of respect for athletes. I'm not dissing them. My home team literally just won. I'm dissing the capitalism of football and the propaganda that football is, and how it literally traps people into this feeling of feeling united, so that we're distracted from the actual issues that are going on, because it's like it gives people a reason to cheer, it gives people a reason to celebrate, it gives reason people to talk about something, it gives reason people to like find community. And I think we just sometimes lose the plot, because everything is calculated down to the very second. Not the game itself, that gameplay like happens in real life, but I'm saying like the ads are calculated. They know exactly who is going to be watching TV that day, so they will throw in people that we know, familiar faces, into the ads, and they want us to be watching, even if we're like, oh, we know it's just ads, we're not going to buy into it. It's literally trying to infiltrate your subconscious mind. And I feel like I can really speak on this because I've worked in marketing, I've worked in e-commerce, so I know how ads work, and I know the psychological effects of it thanks to my sociology background. You hear a message, you might not agree with it, okay? You're probably like, I'm not gonna buy this product, like this looks lame. But you see it like one or two more times, and you're like, wait a second, why that low-key kind of cute? Why I low-key want it? That's freaking brainwashing. That's marketing working right now. That's literally, the more exposure you get, the more comfortable you get, the more you're like, especially if it's the way it's branded and if it's painted in a good way, the more enticing an ad is. The more you see it, the more it gets into your mind, and you're like, wait a second, maybe I do want this. Why don't I just click on this link and see where it takes me, what the deal is? Boom. It worked. It's all part of it. And I understand that, you know, not everyone can feel the same level of anger that I feel, because honestly a lot of it comes from my own lived experience as a woman of color, as an Asian American who grew up in America, who grew up in white America, who had to literally like be from down here to work her way up, you know, coming from a low socioeconomic family, and coming from a low income family, and then working my way into college, making sure I could get a free ride to college, and then coming out of it and finding myself jobs just to make sure that I could survive in the system, only to realize that it made me miserable and that I fucking hated the jobs that I was doing, because I was not only underpaid, but I was served with microaggressions, and I feel like I was just being used thanks to the power dynamics that like governed me at work. All the work politics, everything just burnt me out, and it made me lose love for creativity, which is the sole reason why I even pursue that field to begin with. Oh my god. Excuse me. So a lot of my anger, yes, it derives from like personal lived experiences, but I think it's important to speak out about this because these lived experiences need to be more normalized, okay? Instead of always glamorizing over like everything and then just ignoring the real stories that we all go through, that we all have had to live through. I think my anger is like really layered. It comes from my lived experiences, it comes from my own identities, it comes from seeing how the world operates, it comes from interacting with people in this world, in our society, and it comes from learning. The more I learn, the more I'm like, this is why they want to cut education, this is why they want to cut funding. The more you know, the more I expose myself to different ways of thinking, different ideas and different ideologies and theories, I'm like, yeah, I totally understand. I totally understand why they wouldn't want any of us to think this way. And I'm angry on behalf of my my family. I think this is something that's really hard for me to make sense of, because I'm still making sense of myself, and I don't expect my family to understand this either, because nobody asked me to feel this way, but it's just kind of like who I am. And it's like the anger just, it has just been sitting in my lineage for so long, right? It's been sitting in my lineage for probably generations at this point, and I don't think my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation couldn't afford to be angry because they were fighting for survival, so they avoided their emotions because they had to worry about having a roof over their head, having food on the table. And now it's like my generation, and I've learned the hard way that if I don't face my emotions, they will literally eat me alive. I've suffered from panic attacks and anxiety for years now. Okay, I don't want to say suffer. I think I've learned to accept my anxiety and love my anxiety, because I just know it's another form of protection. It's a form of love. Honestly. Thank you, Inside Out too. But I'm just like at a point where I can't suppress my anger. I've done it. I've suppressed my anger my whole life, and all it's done is made me sick. Physically sick, mentally sick. I've had knee surgery, I've had issues with my thyroid, I've had autoimmune diseases, I've got myself into so many different like freak health episodes, and I'm genuinely convinced it's because I suppressed my emotions my whole life. And when you don't release your emotions and you just push it down, you put it in a little compartment, you lock it inside, you pretend that it doesn't exist so that you don't deal with it, it will come running back, knocking on your door through a different person, through a different relationship, through a different job, through a different vice. It will come running back face forward. So it's like, okay, either you face it or you keep running from it and let you eat it alive. That's my theory. So I have my own anger for myself, my own lived experiences, and then I take a step back and I see it for what it is. I see my family history and all that, and I'm like, of course I'm mad. I can't even imagine what it's like to live as them and to survive through that time. And it's messy. I'm mad and resentful towards my own family. Yeah, I'm also mad and resentful on their behalf because of everything that they had to go through. And now we're in this position where like we have like two split generations, one that survived who couldn't express their emotions, and now one that isn't fighting for survival on a day-to-day basis, but it feels like we're fighting for survival because we don't know how to deal with our emotions. And then we get mad, we get anxious, we get depressed, and they're like, why do you feel this way? I don't understand. Like, you have it so much easier. You have everything you need. What could you possibly be stressed or mad or depressed about? And then it creates this contention. And I'm like, I don't want to direct my anger at you, on my family, because I'm like, I know you didn't intentionally hurt me or try to harm me. You're just doing your best to survive and protect me in your own way. And that is a form of love, but unfortunately you did hurt me along in that process. And I also hate my culture for being like, for normalizing suppressing our anger, for just feeding into this like stereotype, all the stereotypes where we're like, we need to be like polite and like put together and like not messy, to not drag the family name, to bring honor to the family, to keep peace and harmony, because I mean, a lot of Eastern culture is really about like collectivism, right? It's like more like group thinking, like we survive together, we're a unit, we're a family, we survive together. I think that's really important too. Like I love a lot of my Eastern values, but I can't like just dismiss my Western values. Like I grew up in the Western system in America. These are both identities I didn't get to choose. I was just born with it, and I've always felt like I've had to have like one foot in on the other. Never both feet in one world, but like one feet in one identity at the same time, or like tiptoeing back and forth. I'm like, which one is it? So I grow up in this culture, Eastern culture, where it's like family first, honor, blah blah blah. You don't do things that's bad for family. You don't do things that's bad to the family name. You don't do things that are bad. You don't do shit like that, okay? And then it's like, you don't get mad. You don't show that you're mad. If you get mad, you let it go. You just let it go. You don't talk about it. It's not a problem. That's just that, right? And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. That's how I was raised. So I did that, and then I grew up and I became a people pleaser. I let people push over me. I didn't know how to state my boundaries. I couldn't even tell the people in my life that I was mad at them or that they hurt me, and I would just suppress it. And every time I wanted to cry, I swallowed it down. Every time I felt that lump in my throat, I swallowed it down, especially if there was someone in front of me, especially if family was around me. I would just push it down. And I bet every single time that I pushed my tears down, it did something to my cells. I don't know the biology. I need to study it. It did something to my cells because the energy could not be released. I just kept pushing it down. And then the energy dispersed into my body. And it was like, let's hang it out somewhere else. Boom. Benign tumor in my knee. I'm sorry. All I did was play tennis for a little bit. Next thing you know, I could barely walk. Maybe that was just 27 years of suppressing my anger. It just decided to find a little spot in my knee. Bulged up like that. Epigenetics is a real thing. A lot of what I feel, I also think that it's bigger than me, the anxiety that I feel, because when my parents were a baby, I was already a cell existing within their body. Same thing as when they were a baby in my grandparents' body. Like, it's like, no, I did not live through how do I say this? I was a cell when they were already going through their own trauma and surviving through that time period. I was already a cell existing in their body, and that has an effect on the cells. And then I became me, and that gets passed down. Like, trauma gets passed down, anxiety gets passed down. These, just like how like our physical traits gets passed down, this is epigenetics. The things that were felt on a biological, psychological level gets passed down. And I never understood that. I was like, where did this come from? I started having panic attacks in 2017. I remember the first time I had a panic attack, I was riding the light rail and I was on my way to meet a few of my friends for dinner. And I felt literally, I was just sitting there and my heart started racing. And I was like, what's going on? Am I having a heart attack? It was just racing nonstop at like 120 BPM. I was like, okay, this is not normal. Not like I was working out or anything. I wasn't even thinking about anything stressful. It just happened out of nowhere. And we were like going underneath a tunnel. So I was stuck there for a second. And I was like, okay, this is not right. And that was just the start of my panic attack journey. And it was bad. I remember that year I was in and out in the hospital like so many times. I kept going into the ER at least like every other week because I was so convinced that I was dying. I was convinced that I was literally dying because my body would not stop freaking out. I could not calm my anxiety. I could not calm my heart rate. Every little thing stressed me out. Everything freaked me out. I genuinely was convinced I was having a heart attack and that I was gonna be gone. I cannot even explain. It's not even I sat here and like I thought about it, like just like the physical sensation just kept happening to me, and then mentally I was stuck in the cycle where I like kept thinking about my anxiety and it just made it worse. And I was like, okay, this needs to be addressed. And I have been in therapy ever since, and I have been through all sorts of healing modalities trying to address my anxiety, okay? I've had so many different therapists. I've done somatic work, I've done breath work, I go to acupuncture, I go to physical therapy, I go through I've seen all sorts of practitioners to address my anxiety. I've got my heart checked out. I got an EKG done like twice, because I was so convinced that I was not, that like everything was wrong with me. And then I started learning about epigenetics and like hearing how like trauma can be passed down on the cellular level, and that really like changed my perspective, because there are many times where there was a period in my life where I really suffered from insomnia and I couldn't fall asleep. And then when I did fall asleep, I would wake up in fear. I would be screaming in my dreams, and then next thing you know, I'm screaming out loud and I wake myself up, and then my heart is racing at like, I don't know, 120 BPM. It still happens sometimes, especially when I'm really stressed. It still happens. And I was like, oh shit, this is just another form of my anxiety. And then I started to connect the dots, because I was like, did this really start from me? Because my personality has always been very happy-go-lucky. Like, I've always been a very chill person and very positive, very like bright. I've always had hope for the future, and I've always felt motivated to do things in life. I always had excitement to try new things. That's just at the core of who I am. Like, at the core, I'm very like passionate, excited, have a lot of love and drive for life. So when I fell down my anxiety/depression era, I was like, what is happening? Why do I hate everything? Why do I feel so unmotivated? Why is my body shutting down? What is going on? I don't understand. And then I started connecting the dots. This really didn't click with me until I think the past 3 to 4 years of like healing on my own. And I now realize that this anxiety that I felt has always been bigger than me, because it was passed down, because anxiety and depression runs in my family. I used to share a room with my grandma, and I remember she would always be sleep talking, and there were several times where she would be screaming while sleeping and like waking up from nightmares. And I'm like, it was concerning. Okay, I was in the 5th grade at this point, and like sharing a room with my grandma, but like having to hear her like say, like be sleep talking and like screaming from nightmares just felt really like scary to me at that time too, because I'm like, why is she feeling that way? You know, I couldn't understand it. And next thing you know, in my late 20s, I started having nightmares. I started having all sorts of nightmares connected to my family. Usually they're usually like just nightmares surrounding my family, and not good scenarios that I ever want anyone to be in. It's just not fun. And then I would wake myself up by screaming, exactly like how I saw it in my grandma. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is what they mean when they say trauma gets passed down. I don't know what it's like to have to leave your home country and leave the Communist Party and hop on a boat and live through refugee camps and survive and starve on a boat and hide money and toothpaste, and you know, just in case you're gonna get caught. Like, I don't know what that is like. I can't even imagine it. I don't even want to watch. That's why I can't watch stuff that's like even remotely close to that, because I feel like it's so triggering for me, even though I've never like, I was not there firsthand, but my dad was, my aunts were, my uncles were, my grandparents, and that experience, I've only heard about it in passing, but because I was a cell in I was already existing in my father, that shit got passed down, and he was already existing when my grandma was young, when she experienced her time. And then I'm like, oh my god, it makes sense. I connected the dots. My theory that my anxiety has always been bigger than me, that it didn't just like start from me. And then I'm like, Of course I'm pissed. I'm pissed. I'm pissed at the colonizers for colonizing us, for making things so difficult. But at the same time, I'm like grateful to be American. And I'm grateful that my family survived through all that and like made it here so that I could have a chance. So that I grew up here and that I was able to, have things easier. But then like now I have all this awareness and this knowledge and this anger. I do not know where to direct it at. Like I don't want to be hurting anyone or myself. I don't want to be yelling at anyone. I especially don't want to be directing it to my family, especially when everybody's already been through so much. They're old, they're tired, like, and at this time, it's like not even them I want to even like direct anything at. It's more like the system in itself. And then on an individual level, I'm like, there's so many things that I'm mad about through my own personal lived experience, through my generation. And I'm like, okay, I totally understand why people run marathons. I totally get it. Not that I want to, but I feel like I know anger is a really powerful emotion, and when it is used for good, I think it can be really productive. And that's why I think I'm in this position right now where I'm trying to figure out my relationship with my own anger and what I want to do with it. I think I like it best when I use my anger as a fuel to make art. Like there are several times where I'm like pissed, where I'm ready to fight a bitch, where I'm ready to, like, I feel like I'm about to punch someone, but I just sit myself down. I open my journal and I start writing aggressively. I start writing everything down. And I'm like, fine. I will direct it somewhere. I have to direct it to something. I just need an outlet. Nobody needs to see what I write. I don't have to share with anyone, but at least it's down. And I can channel this energy outwards because I can't keep staying stuck in this cycle where I am so mad that I just keep it to myself and I keep it inside, and then this energy gets stuck and locked in. Like, I've already been there. I've gridlocked my anger for so long. I don't want to keep doing that to myself. It needs to be expressed outward. Like, I owe it to myself to feel my anger. So my mom asked me earlier, she's like, why are you so angry? I'm so confused. So I told her why I was so angry. I explained to her. And I listed the reason about why I was so angry today. And she was like, okay, yeah, I get it. I understand. And I knew that in that moment, like, my mom wasn't going to do anything about it. I also wasn't asking her to really do anything about it. Like, she's not responsible for my anger, but I needed her to understand that even if she doesn't agree with my anger is very much valid. I have a reason for getting angry. We don't get angry for no reason. I don't think any of us wants to sit here and be mad. I think anger is a really I think anger can feel like an intimidating emotion because it's really like, it can feel very intense and strong. I just want to come to a place where we can normalize being angry and justifying our anger. Like, we don't even need to justify our anger, actually. Like, I don't want to have to sit here and be like, my anger is valid and just because of XYZ. If I'm angry, there's a reason for it. It's because something or someone triggered something within me, and now I feel the need to express this emotion outward. But of course, in a way that's not going to harm me or anyone else. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Anger has been painted like a villain in my culture. It's like, if you get angry, you don't know how to control your anger, like you're dramatic, like, why are you being so extra, why can't you just let it go, it's not a big deal. And look, I understand anger can feel scary. If it feels like, especially if someone's screaming at you, lashing at you, if you don't direct your anger in a way that's intentional, it can be messy. I don't want to endorse that. But anger is not a bad thing. Without anger, there will be no change in the world. Without anger, things will always feel the same. I think I need to use my anger in a way that will allow me to shake up dynamics in my life that I don't agree with. And I have done that in the past, and it's worked. But it's hard when I feel my anger like from 0 to 100, like I'm at 100 and I'm like, okay, I need to just step away from the situation. I have to just walk outside, leave the house, do some deep breathing, and remind myself that this too shall pass. But I think for me, that's not enough. I think for some people, like, that's a great method, and I think it would work for me during like certain circumstances. But when there are other times where I'm like, I actually want to take my anger to the next step. Like, I have shit I need to say, and I'm tired of people not saying shit because they're too afraid to. And my anger is telling me to speak the fuck up, so that's what I'm doing. So I sat here and I'm like, I literally was pacing in my room earlier. I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my anger today? What do I want to do with my anger? Do we just want to sleep it off? Do I want to doom scroll for the 50 millionth time to pretend like I'm not angry and distract myself from my anger? Or do I want to sit here and just talk to my anger like a friend? I have been angry this whole entire time that I've been speaking. I've just been trying not to look like I'm gonna blow my head off, but I've been mad for a long time now. I've been mad since day one. I've been living. I've been mad at so many things, so many systems, so many people. So many things I've been mad at. And it feels good to say that out loud. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and like do anything crazy. I literally just want to be like, yeah, calling things out for what it is. Okay, again, I kept a lot of things vague because I still want to keep things very personal and private. But I think my anger has a role that needs to be fulfilled, and I feel conflicted because there's always two sides of me. There's one side of me, my Aries rising, my Leo moon is very passionate. Two fire signs, they're very passionate, direct, blunt, don't give a fuck. That's like me when I'm like going off. Okay, me unfiltered. I can be very you don't want to piss me off. I have my Cancer sun. She's very soft, loyal, loving, nurturing, honest. She wants to be protected. She wants to stay in her shell. She doesn't want to say too much. She doesn't want to cross the line. She doesn't want to be canceled. She doesn't want to piss anyone off. She doesn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. 2v1. Always clashing. Like, I want to say it all, but I'm afraid that people are not going to take it well, and it's going to somehow backfire at me. But then I can't help it, and it just comes out. And then people are like, wait, I feel the same way. And I'm like, how come nobody spoke up? I've been waiting for someone to say something. And it's like, fine, I guess I'll just do it first. I'll say it first. I'm not afraid to say the uncomfortable thing. Actually, I want to say the uncomfortable things out loud. I really do. I'm itching. I'm like, let me say it out loud. I'm just afraid of how people will receive it, because I know that it will make people uncomfortable. That's why I haven't said anything. And I've been like this since I was young. I've been wanting to talk shit since I was like in the 5th grade. But again, I grew up in a culture where that is not ladylike. That's not polite. You shouldn't be talking shit. You shouldn't be so opinionated. You shouldn't be like bashing on people. And it's not me bashing people. I'm just like critiquing. It's nuance, okay? It's learning how to have nuance and having discernment when you speak and critique about something. I'm not truly hating. I always joke to say I'm a hater, but I'm a nuance hater. I have reason to be critiquing, okay? I guess we can thank my sociology degree for that. And me being a spiritual person. Yeah. Anyways, wow, this was really long. Holy shit. 45 minutes of yapping about anger and what I'm going to do with it, but I don't know. Maybe I'll try this again later about a different topic, but it feels good. It feels good to let out my anger like this. I feel like giving my anger a stage like this, a platform, which is literally just my MacBook Pro photo booth. It feels nice. I think my whole life I've just been waiting for someone to acknowledge my anger, to comfort me, to validate my anger, and now that I'm nearing 30, I'm like, girl, we gonna validate our own anger. We're gonna become good friends with our anger. We're gonna use it for good. I think this world needs more loving anger. I don't know if that's a term, but yeah, this world needs more loving anger. We need more people to be angry, and we need people to be using their anger for good. Feeling it for art, feeling it for love, feeling it for change. That is what will drive us together. That's my big hope.